Before you listen, understand this. This is not a sermon. This is not doctrine. This is not meant to replace belief. What you are about to hear is a story drawn from forgotten texts, ancient imagination, and the quiet questions human beings have always asked but rarely voice. It speaks of Eden, of angels, of fallen knowledge. But more importantly, it speaks of you. Listen slowly. Do not rush to agree or disagree, because some stories are not meant to be believed. They are meant to be remembered. This is the Rift of Realms. In the first age, before the heavens were weighed and the earth was measured, the worlds were not separated as they are now. They overlapped like breath upon breath, and creation moved as a single body. Eden was not merely planted upon the soil of the earth. It was set between realms, suspended where heaven's clarity touched earth's becoming. It was a place, yes, but more than that, it was a state of being, where nothing within creation yet resisted itself. Adam walked there without striving. He did not bend the world to his will, nor did he fear it. The ground answered his steps, and the air carried meaning without words. When he named a thing, he did not invent its name. He remembered it. The name revealed the nature already present. Thus, to name was not to dominate, but to recognize. Adam did not rule Eden. He belonged to it. Eve walked beside him, yet she walked differently. Where Adam perceived essence, Eve perceived direction. She felt the movement of things before they occurred, sensed the leaning of the future before it unfolded. Her awareness was not analytical, but intuitive, flowing like a river that knew where it must one day break. In her, perception carried sorrow before sorrow had a cause, for she could feel what harmony would cost once it was disturbed. They were naked, not because they lacked covering, but because nothing within them was hidden. There was no split between thought and action, no conflict between desire and wisdom. Shame had no soil in which to grow, for division had not yet entered them. Above and beyond Eden moved the Watchers, ancient beings appointed to observe the unfolding of creation. They were luminous, ordered, and vast in knowledge. They understood structure, pattern, and law. But they did not know becoming. They did not change. They endured. And as they watched humanity grow, learning not by command but by experience, something stirred among them. Humans were weak, yes, but in their weakness lay transformation. They fell and rose again. They learned through consequence. They carried within limitation the seed of wisdom. The Watchers beheld this and mistook it for theft. They believed humanity had been given something that had been withheld from them. One Watcher above the rest felt this fracture keenly. He had once measured the courses of stars and delighted in balance. But when he looked upon humans walking in awareness without effort, envy arose, not of flesh but of possibility. Desire untempered by humility became restlessness. Restlessness became rebellion. On the mountain later called Hermon, the Watchers crossed a boundary not set for them. They did not descend in hatred, but in fascination. They taught humanity knowledge that was not evil in itself, but premature. They taught how to bend matter, how to cut into the hidden structures of the world, how to turn words into instruments of command. They taught power before wisdom and capacity before conscience. The rift was opened not by violence, but by intimacy without order. Eve felt it first as a tightening in the unseen fabric of things. The air no longer rested easily. Meaning began to slip from immediacy into interpretation. Adam felt confusion where once there had been clarity. Names came slower. Harmony thinned. The Watcher whispered not aloud, but into the expanding capacity of human thought, offering knowledge as gift, awakening without grounding. When the fruit was taken, Eden did not shatter. It withdrew. Adam became aware of himself as separate, and in that separation he felt naked for the first time. Not exposed in body, but fragmented in being. Eve felt grief sharp and sudden, not for punishment but for what was lost. The seamless unity that could not survive divided awareness. The Watcher realized too late that what he had broken could not be occupied by force. The exile was not rage, it was consequence. Outside Eden, the earth resisted humanity not in cruelty but in reflection. Adam labored not as punishment but as reminder. Each furrow cut into the soil echoed the division within his own perception. Eve bore children and taught them not only how to survive but how to remember. She spoke of a garden not as a place behind them but as a wholeness ahead of them, attainable only through integration. Many feared her knowing, some silenced it, but a few listened deeply, and those few carried echoes of Eden forward. The Watchers continued to teach, and humanity continued to grasp. From their union came the Nephilim, giants not only in stature but in authority unrestrained. They ruled without stewardship, consumed without gratitude, dominated without conscience. The earth groaned under systems built on excess and fear. Blood cried out, balance collapsed. The Watcher saw the devastation and knew his error, but pride barred repentance. He could not return to his former place, nor could he fully descend. Thus he lingered in the fracture, bound by the very knowledge he had unleashed. Then the waters came. The flood was not merely destruction, it was restoration through cleansing. Boundaries were reset, the giants fell. The Watchers were bound in the deep places between realms, neither light nor darkness, awaiting judgment not of vengeance but of order restored. Humanity survived, but carried forward the imprint of the rift, now etched into memory and psyche rather than landscape. Generations passed, kingdoms rose and fell. Knowledge grew faster than wisdom, power outpaced compassion. And then came Enoch. Enoch walked with God not because he escaped the world but because he reconciled its divisions within himself. He listened without grasping. He learned without exalting himself. He moved between realms without losing humility. To him were shown the architectures of heaven and the bindings of the fallen Watchers, not as spectacle but as lesson. He saw that some knowledge must wait for maturity, and that restraint is not denial but mercy. Enoch was taken not to remove him from humanity but to preserve the memory of what humanity could yet become, a human not perfected by control but by integration. Ages later, scribes gathered to decide what should be remembered. They feared stories that blurred the boundary between divine and human. They feared knowledge that did not submit to hierarchy. So they removed Enoch's journeys, silenced Eve's visions, and flattened Adam into a cautionary tale, not because these truths were false, but because they threatened rigid authority. The rift did not disappear, it moved inward. Now Eden lives as longing, the Watchers whisper as unchecked impulses, the giants rise as systems without conscience. The ancient war no longer rages in the heavens but in the human mind, between instinct and reason, power and compassion, knowledge and wisdom. Every person carries Adam's labor, Eve's intuition, Enoch's path, and the Watcher's temptation. Trauma is exile, repression is a closed gate. Healing is integration. When awareness meets humility, when strength serves mercy, when knowledge bows to wisdom, the rift narrows. Eden does not reopen as a place to return to. It reemerges as a state of being restored. And it is written not in any canon but in the deep grammar of the soul. Salvation is not escape from the world but the healing of division within it. And when that healing begins, even now the cherubim do not bar the way. They step aside. You have not just listened to a story, you have listened to a mirror. Eden was never only a garden, the Watchers were never only angels. The rift was never only in the heavens, it has always been here, in the space between who we are and who we could become. If this story unsettled you, it is because something in you recognized it. If it brought peace, it is because something in you is already healing. Carry it gently, sit with it, and remember, the return to Eden does not happen in the sky. It happens within. Until next time.